Abiding fam, and welcome back to my channel. It has been a long time since we did a journal flip through here on my channel, but as we are wrapping up another year, we have officially closed out on 2020. Yes, I know it's hard to believe. It felt like that year was never going to end, but it did, which means I am here today to share with you a peek inside of my 2020 journal. So here is my 2020 journal. She is a chunky little girl, but she's only one journal because in 2020 I focused on documenting the highlights of my year. Yes, there were still highlights and good things did happen, enough to fill up an entire journal. So that is what I will be sharing with you today. Now, this is my personal journal. This is my real life, and so just keep that in mind as you are watching, that I am choosing to be vulnerable on here and share with you my life on my channel. But as you watch it, know that the heart behind choosing to share my life in my journal with you is to inspire and encourage you to document your own life and explore your own creativities. So I hope by the time we flip to the final page inside of my 2020 journal, you leave this video feeling inspired to document your own life. And if it does, I have good news for you, which is that there is a community of people who also love journaling and documenting their lives here for you to join. So I would encourage you to subscribe to my channel and join the Abiding fam. And if you want to join us in journaling in 2021, you can follow along using the hashtag MyAbidingJournal2021. And we also have a Facebook group where we are documenting our years and sharing our spreads and really just abiding in this community. And I would love to have you join it. If you want to learn more about what hashtag MyAbidingJournal2021 is and the heart behind it, then do check out this video. I will have it linked up here in the cards where we talk about all of our plans moving forward into 2021. But for this video, we are going to be stepping back in time, starting all the way back in January as we open up my 2020 journal. And if you couldn't tell from the length of this video already, this is going to be a chatty one. We are really going to take our time on each page. I'll talk about supplies I used, the memories associated with the pages, what I was thinking as I was designing the spread. So make sure that you are sitting somewhere comfy and cozy, maybe with a hot cup of coffee or tea, and let's just hang out and take a little trip back in time as we walk through my 2020 journal. Alright fam, so here we are at my desk with my 2020 journal, and we're just going to dive right in, starting with the cover. So this, first of all, is a Moleskine Cahier large journal. I have it linked in the description box down below. This is what I used in 2018 and is what I used for 2020 for my journaling. And in 2021, I'm sizing up and I'm going to be using a slightly bigger version of this for my 2021 Abiding journal. And as I said, you can learn more about that in the video I have linked in the cards and in the description box. But this journal has a black cover already, so rather than cover it up like I've done for some of my journal covers in the past, I decided to just use white gel pen to do a quote over it. And you might be able to read it. It says, "You're so hard on yourself. Take a moment, sit back, marvel at your life, at the grief that softened you, at the heartache that wizened you, at the suffering that strengthened you. Despite everything, you still grow." And I just thought that was the most perfect quote for 2020, especially as we look through this year. And yes, as I look back on 2020 as a whole, it's just a lot of grief. It's a lot of heartache. It's a lot of suffering. At the same time, I think that 2020 really strengthened many of us. And through it all, there's still things to marvel at in your life, and there's still joys. And that's what my 2020 journal focuses on, is all of the highlights tucked throughout those days. And I just used sticker paper to add 2020 here, and then I also used it to make Strengthened You stand out. And then this piece here is actually a leftover pouring paint artwork that I did. I made it so that it was an artwork where I did the pouring paint over a canvas, but I had a circle in the middle using a vinyl so that the pouring paint wouldn't go in that spot on the canvas, and then I obviously pulled up that piece. But the circle that resulted was so beautiful that it felt wrong to just throw this away as a reject piece. So I decided to stick it onto the cover of my journal, and it actually ended up representing, I thought, this year really well, because to me this is like the world and everything is just muddy and gray and confusing, and isn't that an apt description for 2020? And as you can see, I just did some little doodles on the back as well in the white gel pen to bring it around, and that is my cover. But let's go ahead and dive into the inside, since that of course is the most fun part. So here we have, of course, the 1st of January, and on this day I actually documented New Year's Eve since that bled into January 1. And fun fact about this one is that you can actually watch this come together as part of a live stream where I was hanging out with you guys and we put together this page together. And if you go and watch that, you will learn all about the items that I used on this page and how we had a themed New Year's Eve party, and it was movie characters themed. So we dressed up as Dr. Jones and Lara Croft, Tomb Raider. And of course I made a little whip for Dr. Jones here, and it was a super fun time. So this next page documents the first snow of the year, and this was super special because even though we didn't get a white Christmas this year, it happened close enough to Christmas that the church by our house was still decorated. So I was able to get a beautiful photo of the tree that they decorate right by that church, all lit up, and then with the snow hanging on the boughs, which was so beautiful. And then I also did kind of like a little gelato and watercolor background to make the lit up tree here and put a little gold star at the top. And then I thought it was fun that I did this overlay for the journaling where it's just a piece of vellum, but it outlines the tree, and then the tree in the photo also lines up with the tree on the background, if that makes sense. So it kind of looks like the tree is continuing off of the photo and onto the page, and then it's also outlined by the vellum piece that has my journaling on it. So I really liked the way that that turned out. This next page isn't a specific date, but actually documents the books that I read in 2020. So something I love doing is printing out little mini photos of the book covers for all of the books that I read in a year. 12 is less than I would typically like to read in a year, but this year I was reading the Bible in a year, so a lot of my reading time went towards reading the Bible, which took away from the rest of my reading. And I also just had a crazy year at work, working a lot of late hours due to everything that was happening. So yes, only 12 books this year, but I'm still happy with that. That's one a month. And I really love the way that this page turned out. I used an old book page to back it and cover up the other side because there's a lot of bleed through, which I'll get to in a second. And I did a little sticker here, and then one of my little printables from my Patreon, which I'll talk about more later. So I just really love the way that that turned out, and documenting the books you read in a year is always a really fun spread to do in your journal. And the reason that this page is just kind of randomly thrown in here is because I actually was originally doing this page as this entry for my niece's birthday party. And I had done these little washes of color. These are pigmented inks. I had done them on this side, but I didn't actually like the way that they looked directly on the page, but I loved the way that the bleed through looked. So I decided to just do the page actually here and then leave this one blank, and I knew that I would come back to it and fill it in with something else later. And I ended up just covering up that background effect with the paper and then doing my book list here. So that's why this is just kind of randomly thrown in. And then we have this entry. And if that was confusing, it'll make more sense if you watch the process for this video, which is also a live stream journal with me here on my channel. So you can go ahead and watch that. And I think in that video, the whole time, I was talking about how it was her 6th birthday party, and I originally had this washi strip go to number 6 before realizing that it was her 5th birthday, and I don't know why I was thinking that as I was creating this page. So I took off the 6 and just kept it at 5 since she will not be turning 6 until this January. This next page documents a girls' weekend where we went over to my aunt's house. It's actually Ben's aunt, so I guess my aunt-in-law, if that's a thing. But we went over there with my mother-in-law and my mom and another aunt and a cousin and just had a family girls' weekend of crafting and hanging out and, you know, looking through Flow magazines in the living room and making coffee and tea. It was so much fun, and we have a little tip in here where if you open this up, it has our Eggs Benedict from the cafe that we went to for breakfast. And then there's also a cute little corner here where this comes out. We went to Altered State, which is one of my favorite shops. And so I just wrote about that on this little tag here. And what's great about this kind of girls' weekend is we just went to my aunt's house. So we were just staying at somebody else's house. We didn't have to spend any money for lodging, but it still felt like a getaway. And yeah, it was just a super, super fun time. And I love the way that this turned out. And I do have a process video for this page, but it's actually an exclusive journal with me available on my Patreon page. So if you become a patron to support my channel with a small donation of $6 a month, this is on the $6 tier, you get access to full-sized printables and access to a library of exclusive videos and get new ones every month. So if you're interested in seeing this, you can check out my Patreon. This next page documents a day where I was painting a Bible for a wedding we were going to go to. The bride and groom are good friends of ours, and they asked us if, well, they asked me, Ben did not help with this, they asked me if I would paint a Bible for their wedding because they loved the one that I had done for my wedding. And so I, of course, said yes, and that would be my gift to them. So I painted a little Bible for them. And then, of course, just decorated this page with some really fun washi and stickers. And all of these stickers come from the Happy Planner Faith sticker pack. And then these next few pages document going to that wedding, which was in Tennessee, and it was our first trip to Tennessee. And as you can see, this was the end of January, so they got it in just in time before weddings were no longer happening in 2020. And I just love this really cute little journaling card that has stitching on it already. So I did my journaling on that. And we went to this amazing shop. Oh, I wish I could remember what it was called. I think I have it written in here somewhere. Yes, of course. So this is why we journal, so that we can remember things. The store was called Philanthropy, and it was just a really neat, like, vintage store, but then they also kind of were Christian based. In the center, they had this amazing prayer wall. It was so neat. If you're ever in Franklin, Tennessee, I highly recommend you go check it out. And then we went to Biscuit Love because that's like a super big thing there, and had donuts, which were absolutely incredible. They're like a cream-filled donut. So, so good. The rest of Biscuit Love I didn't think was all that great or exciting, but the donuts were worth the trip. Next, we have the wedding, and I did a little vellum tip-in for my journaling, and then underneath we have some photos from the wedding. I did a little stenciling in the back with a gelato. This is cut out from a little brochure because I went to this place to have coffee before the wedding started. Ben was in the wedding, so I had a lot of free time while he was like getting ready with the groomsmen, where I was just kind of hanging out by myself. So I went to a little cafe and hung out there. And then, yeah, just some really fun photos from the wedding. I have a video here on my channel. I actually have a whole playlist that is creative journaling for beginners. and one of the videos on that playlist is a video all about how I print out tiny photos for my journaling. So if you're interested in that, definitely check out that playlist. And then one of the little gifts that they gave at the wedding was little guitar picks with their names on it and their wedding date, since he is a musician. So I thought that was a really cool touch, and I just glued the guitar pick in here since neither Ben or myself play an instrument. And I thought it was fun too that I purposefully ripped the vellum so that it just showed them kissing, and it's like a really sweet photo, but then if you pick it up, you see all of their crazy reactions to their kissing, which I thought was a fun little touch. And then the day after the wedding, we had some time before our flight home, so we decided to look around the area and check out some of the Civil War history, since Ben is very into the Civil War. And so we went to a place called the Lots House, and I took this little brochure thing that they had at the very gross hotel that we were staying at, and just put this in here. And then I put like this little house, because the Lots House, you know, was just a house that we went and toured, and did some lettering for Civil War and Battle of Franklin. So I just thought that was a really sweet page, and it turned out well. Next up, we have Valentine's Day, and we went out to eat. Ben very kindly made us reservations to go to this place called Alfred's Victorian nearby where we live, which is a really nice restaurant that I've been wanting to try for a long time. And the problem was he did not realize when he made those reservations that it would be a fixed menu. And let's just say the fixed menu price was beyond what he expected. So because it was a fixed menu, it was like a one price only, and that meant that you could not just pick, you know, whatever items you wanted. You had to get the fixed price, and then you got an appetizer and a first course and a second course and a third course, etc. Luckily, the food truly was amazing and worth the high prices, but he handled it like a good sport, but it definitely was more than we were anticipating spending for Valentine's Day. But I just love the way that this little spread turned out. It's hard to see because it's very dark, but we took a little photo in front of the restaurant, and then I love these little stickers of the little plate that I put the date on, and then the fork and spoon. And then this is a picture of the menu to remember all of the good things we ate, which is always a good idea. Take a picture of the menu if you're going to a really special restaurant. And then here is the end of February, where we had a birthday party for our friend Matt. He was turning 30, so his wife set up a surprise birthday get together at this place called Bury the Hatchet, which is like an axe throwing place, and it was a super fun time. And I love the bright yellows on this page and the little crown, because he was, you know, king of the hatchet. I just thought that was a really fun page, and I love the spread and how it turned out. Then the following day, we have a very simple spread of us playing football with some good friends of ours, and here we are. I just put a photo of us all together and used this big amazing sticker and stamped out friends using my Allie Brown stamp set. And yeah, put the date, put a little football up here, but very simple spread. And now here, friends, we get into March, when everything started to change. And this page that I'm about to share with you is actually right before and at the same time right when everything changed in our world. And so for over a year, my mom and I had been planning a trip to the Galapagos Islands, which is off the coast of Ecuador. And this was like the dream vacation of all time for me. Something many of you probably don't know about me is that I studied animal behavior in college. So I'm very passionate about wildlife, and the Galapagos is the place to go for wildlife. I'm also very interested in marine biology. I actually studied leatherback sea turtles in Grenada and bottlenose dolphins in Australia, and so this was truly planning like the lifelong dream trip for us, and it was going to be a mother-daughter trip, and we were super excited to go. the day that we left was when things were still pretty normal here in the US. So some people were wearing masks in, the airport. That was really the only difference. And at that time, they only had travel restrictions to like 2 countries, basically China and I think France, because that's where things were bad. And at that time, in the Galapagos and in Ecuador, there were 0 cases of the virus that I'm not really going to talk about in terms of actually saying it, because YouTube has been weird about that lately and I don't want them doing anything to this video. But I'm talking about 2020. We're going to be flipping through 2020, so it's going to come up, but I'm just going to try. You're going to notice me trying not to like say the words. But anyway, the point is that there were 0 cases where we were going. It's like the most isolated place in the world, so we figured we're going to be totally safe and fine there. And at that time, there were no travel restrictions anywhere except China. So we decided to go forward with our trip because we had spent a lot of money on this, guys, and we were not about to lose out on all of that money we had spent and on this trip of a lifetime. And like I said, things were pretty normal up until what I'm going to talk about. So we went and we had 2 wonderful, wonderful days of exploring wildlife. So I made these little cards, collages, using my Pic Collage app of some of the photos and wildlife that we saw, and I just put the photos back to back and taped them in here, and then made it like a little tip-in using just regular Scotch tape so that you could still see the photo. And then I did all my journaling underneath and used some stamps to write out Galapagos. But of course, as many of you guys probably know, things changed in the blink of an eye once things like really went down. And so we came back from this wonderful tour. Everything was totally normal. Everything, like truly, everything was normal. And then we got back from a tour. It was a boat tour, and stepped back onto the island that we were staying on, and everything was shut down. Like truly night and day. It was crazy. And then my mom and I had basically a 10-day adventure of just trying to get out of Ecuador. Like so many other people who had traveled around the time that everything went crazy, a lot of people got stranded in places all over the world. And so we were one of those people. We got stranded in the Galapagos Islands of all places. And honestly, it was a real nightmare trying to navigate this, trying to get off the island, realizing that we weren't going to have the trip of a lifetime, that our dream trip turned into our nightmare, was just really, really hard. It was like actually pretty devastating. And so I still want these memories in here because we did still have some good days, but I actually left these pages blank and went back to these at the very end of this year. So these were the last entries that I did in this journal, just because it was too hard for me to journal about it when it first happened. Yeah, it was just really hard. So anyways, that is kind of the basic story of us being stranded in the Galapagos Islands. But the actual journaling, I put in, some of our tickets, my little tourist declaration, put that in here. I have the plane ticket in here that we finally got a ticket to go home. And so this was really special because it happened on my birthday at midnight. So this was a total God thing that we were able to get a ticket to finally go home. The person working the ticket booth literally handed me this ticket at midnight on my birthday after a horrible time. So I definitely wanted to hold on to that. And then this is very thick, this little pouch here that I stuck in here, because it has actually newspaper articles. So there's one that was written about our trip that ended up in our local newspaper, and there's one that I wrote. So many of you probably know that I'm a writer, and I just knew that I had to document what happened to us. And also I wrote this while we were still stranded, and I was trying to raise awareness that, people are being locked into countries all over the world, and we happened to be locked in a country that did not have the medication my mom needs for her heart. She has heart problems. So it was like a life or death matter for us to get out of that country or get medication brought to us, because she only had enough planned for, you know, plus a few days for that trip. And they were telling us that we were going to be stuck there for weeks and weeks, possibly. And so anyways, I wrote an article about our experience, and that was published in our newspaper. So I just have those in here. I have a letter that my husband wrote to me, and it's very difficult to read as well because he wrote it before I left, just wishing me like the best time because he knew it was, you know, my dream trip with my mom. So this is a United States Traveler Health Declaration, and I'm covering up my information because I had to write my address and stuff on it. But I just thought it was really interesting that when we got back, you know, it just shows you how quickly everything changed, because all of a sudden I had to fill out this traveler declaration telling them whether or not I had been to China in the past 14 days or any other countries that were listed at the bottom. And look how much the country list had grown at that point. Remember, when I left, there were 2 countries on this list. So it was just crazy how fast everything changed. And so this will just be a really cool thing to have, I think, to show grandchildren one day. Like, you know, this is the kind of stuff that went on at the beginning of a pandemic. Okay, so then this next page jumps to April. We went out and just got some fresh air and went out on a little hike together, which was really nice, and found some really cute little salamanders. And then the Saturday before Easter, my church usually puts on what is called Holy Saturday Hike, where the church gathers and goes for a hike together. And my husband and I were actually supposed to lead it this year, but it got canceled due to everything that was happening. And so we made a little guide for people to do it on their own. So this is just a little piece that I cut out from that guide that I provided them. It's basically scriptures and things to think about as they were hiking. And then I just have a little collage of photos from the hike that we did. And this is a fun little journaling card that is just tucked in here, journaling about that day, and it has a little bird at the top. So I really liked the way that those turned out. Oh, fun fact about this sticker that I didn't mention. This is a size sticker for a piece of clothing. So this was a piece of clothing I bought that was size small, and they had this sticker on it, but it's a really pretty sticker. It has little floral on it. So I held onto it and I stuck it here for my S in Sunday. So just another example of weird things to hold on to and recycle and repurpose to use in your journal. I have a whole video on other ideas of items that you shouldn't throw away but instead should use in your journal. So I'll link that up in the cards. And then here, guys, is our Easter dinner. Things were still really weird at this point. Nobody really knew what was going on. So we decided to just have Easter just by ourselves. It was just me and my husband, but it actually was a really special day. We went for a little walk together. I made a really delicious pot roast, and yeah, it's just a really beautiful thing to reflect on. These are more printouts from the hike guide that we created, and it actually was a really special Easter, even though we weren't able to gather with family. And then this next page documents my first trip to a store in the US post-pandemic. And all of the little illustrations you see on here, the one that says social distance, these little arrows that have 6 feet between them, the little we're all in this together world, the girl with the mask, and the little calendar are all from my Patreon page. So these are printables that you could get over there if you're wanting to document the weirdness of this time as well. But I just took some photos in the stores, like the empty bath tissue aisle with no toilet paper in sight, and the little arrows on the floor telling you how to practice social distancing. And then, like, my husband, for his work, he does a lot of field work, but he had to carry around this thing in a card telling people that he was an essential utility personnel and that he was allowed to be out and about. There is a little stay safe, keep your space marker here, and then me in a mask. So just like all of the things related to you know what. And then I had some lingo here about like social distancing and toilet paper shortage and stay home and flatten the curve, like all that lingo that was going around that was totally new. Like none of this was words in our vocabulary before this time. So I just thought it was fun to document what that lingo was at that time. And I just want to take this opportunity to say that I'm being very vulnerable in some ways by sharing my life in this way and opening up my journal for you to see what I was up to in this past year, especially in a year where people were very hypercritical and judgmental about everything and really felt like it was their place to speak into other people's lives about what they should and shouldn't do to be safe. So I just wanted to take this opportunity to say that my husband and I took this very seriously. We believe in wearing masks and doing our part to love our neighbors well. We believe in doing what we can to distance ourselves from others, especially not going to public places with a bunch of people we don't know. But you are going to see in the rest of this journal us seeing family members that are especially close to us and seeing some friends. Although we did so as safely as possible, I can't tell you the last time I got to hug a friend, and we're trying to keep our distance but still be able to have some socialization. I just want to say that that was our choice and our decision based on what was happening in our area at the time, because of course it's different all over the US and all over the world depending on where you live at different times of the year, and also based on our risk level. And there's just a lot that every individual family had to weigh during this time and make decisions that made the most sense for them while still always keeping in mind the health and safety of others. So I just wanted to put that out there, that if looking through these pages you find yourself wanting to comment that you don't agree with something that we chose to do or whatever, I would just ask that you please not offer grace instead. I would just ask that any comments be focused on journaling and not judgment. I am not opening my journal for you to judge the choices that I have made in this past year. I am opening it to inspire and encourage you to document your own year. Anyways, I just wanted to get that out now because I don't want to be pausing on every page trying to explain myself or why during this month we thought it was okay to hang out with these people and why at this time we decided to do this. Just know that we were doing everything safely. We were doing everything within our state's guidelines and government orders. I just wanted to put that out there and ask you to be kind and graceful, and if you can't be those things, then you are more than free to move on to another video. So let's then get back to the journaling. So this next page documents a really good meal that I made in the crock pot. This is a Thai peanut chicken with jasmine rice, and I also made homemade Thai iced tea, which was super great. So this was a really simple page. And to put the text on here, I actually just saved a Instagram story. So that's a really great tip, is to save your Instagram stories to print out and put into your journaling. Over here, we went on a nice little walk together at a local trail. And on this walk, we saw a bittern, which is a member of the heron family. It's a type of bird. But it was really funny because I thought he was talking about two doves sitting in a tree. And I was like, oh, look, there's another one. And he's like, another one? And they're super elusive and they don't hang out together. And then I realized he was looking on the ground and I was looking in a tree. And I was definitely looking at the wrong bird. So it was just funny. So I documented that, and I think I did a journal with me for this page, but I'm not sure if it's available yet on my channel. Here is the first time that we finally got to see other people after everything went down. So this was the end of April, and we went on a nice distanced hike with Ben's parents. So it was just so good to finally see them again. It had been way too long, but you know, understandably. So it was just a really lovely time, and I love looking back on this day and these memories. And then here is another hike. Basically, we always loved to hike, but of course, once everything happened, that became the only thing people could do. So it's a lot of the spreads in here. And I really love the layout of this page, and this actually has a little tip-in that goes up and has another photo underneath, and then the journaling. And this is actually a piece of tissue paper, and it's a piece of tissue paper that is like the throwaway piece that has words and stuff on it just telling you what's inside of the pack. But I decided to just cut out the part that wasn't words and use it in here. So another example of something you can reuse and recycle in your journaling. I love this page. So this has this beautiful shimmery watercolor metallic background. I have a video here on my channel all about these metallic watercolors. They are from Arteza and add such a pretty effect. And I just love the little bird and the seek because we were looking for a new place that we hadn't been to before, and we're kind of just walking along the trail trying to find it. And I put a little journaling card in here with my first Eggs Benedict that I ever made, which was another special thing about that day, so I wanted to document that. And then we have here a little collage of photos of the place that we went. It's called the White Cliffs of Kenoi. It's just like these beautiful white cliffs that overlook the river. And this was our first time seeing friends since the pandemic has started. We got together with 2 friends and had a nice little distanced hike where we got to chat and just talk to friends again, which was so special. Who knew how much we would really value those opportunities once they were taken away from us. So that was just a really beautiful day, and I love looking back on those memories. So again, another hike that we went on. This was to a place called the Enola Low-Grade Trail, and I just kept the little brochure that was available there from that in here. And then I just have a collage of photos of the different things that we found. And we were there specifically because my husband is very into herping, otherwise known as looking for reptiles and amphibians. And so he was looking specifically for a broad-headed skink, which we were told could be found in that area, and also fence lizards. So this is a broad-headed skink, and we found so many of them. It was so amazing to see that many because you can only find them in really specific areas. And yeah, this was just a really fun page to document. And again, I played with the metallic watercolors and did these little leaf backgrounds that I thought turned out really great. So this next page documents our first anniversary, and I do have a journal with me here on my channel for this. And although I had always hoped that we would spend our first anniversary at the bed and breakfast where we had our mini moon, that obviously wasn't an option this year, and so we had to be a little bit more creative and decided that we would go on a little mini backpacking trip for our anniversary. So we just went on a one-nighter and went on the Appalachian Trail and backpacked with our dog, which was super fun. It was our first time taking our dog on a trip like that, and she definitely loved it. And I just did the journaling on this little card here, and then I had on the back it says her first puppuccino, which is super fun. I think this actually, if I'm not mistaken, we did as a live stream as well. So this is a nice long journal with me for you to watch. And then this page I did as a follow-up journal with me to creating this one. And this one I have filmed as well, but I don't think I've yet edited it or put it out. I might put this one on Patreon, but this is documenting our actual anniversary, which is May 26th. And I just love the layout of this page. I love the simplicity and the negative space and just using these cute little stickers and the washi border and this little documented card with the stitching. I just thought this turned out really well. So on this day, we enjoyed our cake from our wedding. We had put it in the freezer for an entire year, and it was just as good as that first day. I tried on my dress again,
and we ordered a ton of takeout from our favorite local restaurants to try to support them, and just really pigged out on some delicious food. So that was a super fun way to celebrate our anniversary. This page is not documenting a specific day, but is kind of just representing the summer and the fact that I started my first little garden on my patio. So I just took a bunch of photos of some of the flowers that I grew, and I also kept a bunch of the little flower picks, and I just made this little kind of like glassine bag, and I just cut it down and then used a strip of washi tape to close it up and make a little bag and stick my little picks in it. And then I have the journaling, and then these are all printables from my Patreon as well. So just love that page, super bright and colorful. So these next two spreads are two of my favorites in terms of aesthetics. I just love the way that they look. And here we have me going on a hike by myself with Jeannie, and I went to a totally new place. I just looked up a new place in my phone nearby that I could explore, and it was so fun to just discover a new place kind of within our backyard. And so that is what this spread is documenting. And then this one is documenting some really good food that we had, and this was our first time seeing my parents. So not until June did I see my parents again, since everything started. So it was just really, really nice to be able to enjoy a meal with them, and we just ate outside, and yeah, it was really lovely. Here is a day where Ben offered to help a family friend with a snake problem. She had a bunch of these water snakes that were eating her koi fish in her pond, so Ben offered to come and take care of that problem for her. And as I mentioned, he loves herping, he loves reptiles and amphibians, and so this was like a dream for him to go and catch snakes. So he really enjoyed this day, but the people helping him put the snake into a bag were not as thrilled by the idea. And then on this day in July, I absolutely love this spread. I really, really just think it's so darling and cute. And this documents a kayaking trip that we went on with Ben's parents down the Swatara River, and it was so wonderful. It was a beautiful day, and we had this amazing sighting of a mother doe and her fawns come out, and saw them suckling, and it was literally just a few feet away. It was truly incredible. So I loved using this adorable little deer sticker to represent that, and I love the foil on its back. So that was a really special day to document. So this was the year of Ben's friends, including himself, as you'll see, all turning 30. So of course, you know, that's when people want to do these like huge blowout birthday parties. Now this was definitely by no means a blowout. Unfortunately, our good friend Emily, her husband decided to keep things safe, which is a good thing, and only invited a few people, but they still had an amazing spread, and it was all outdoors, but it was a surprise, which was really fun. And so we just really loved getting to celebrate her, even if it wasn't in the way that we would have hoped to celebrate her with a bunch of people and everything. For her 30th, it was still a special time. And of course, she's a Spanish teacher, so that's why it's fiesta, and we had a piñata, and it was all like Mexican food and Spanish food, so it was so much fun. And then this next one documents a little weekend trip that we went on with the same couple, Scott and Emily. You'll see them a lot in here because they are really good friends of ours, so they kind of were in our inner circle. And we went on a backpacking trip to the Adirondacks, so it was super awesome because it was safe. We got to stay outside and just explore nature, and it was truly one of the most magical, beautiful trips that I've been on. So I love the way that this page turned out. This is kind of like the intro page with the Adirondacks and the dates written on it, and then I did some embossing with my stamping, And then I just love the look of this paper bag in the background, and I actually used a real stamp, but it was just too perfect. It represented it so well. So this is a US stamp, and I thought that was kind of neat for a travel page. And then when you flip to the next page, this is kind of all the memories, and I did record this, but I'm not sure yet if I'm going to share it here or on my Patreon, but it will be available somewhere at some point. And this page is just all of the photos from our trip made into little collages that I again put back to back, which it's a good way to get a lot of photos on your page without taking up a ton of room or having to go onto multiple pages. And then here I have some as well. We climbed Mount Marcy, and then I journaled about that on the back in white gel pen. And then here is the Tier of the Clouds lake that we hiked to. So beautiful. Highly recommend it if you've never been. And then all of my journaling, I guess I'll show you what it looks like without these in it. All of my journaling is in the back, and I just love the look of it without anything in it too. I just think it's really clean and pretty. And then these are all of the peaks that we climbed. It's like a thing in the Adirondacks to climb the 46 tallest peaks that are above 4,000 feet. So on this trip, we climbed 4 peaks, which equaled 19,348 feet. And Ben now has 11 peaks under his belt, so he has 35 more to climb, and it's a goal of his to climb all 46 in his lifetime. On this day in August, we visited Ben's parents at a campground where they were camping not far from us, and our niece, Avonlea, was with them camping that weekend. So this was the first time we got to see her, which was super special, and she and her uncle were just being so adorable together. I just took a bunch of photos of them and kind of documented their relationship on this page. And he also told her a story about how the first s'more was started, and we weren't sure if she was paying attention, but then like the next day she recited it word for word, the story that he had made up about the first s'more and Frederick the troll who had created the first s'more. So it was really cute. And on this day, we went to a backyard concert with our friends Nat and Jen. And so that was a really neat experience where everybody was, again, distanced and it was outside, but it still felt a little bit like normal life in some ways. So that was wonderful. And then we did have a birthday party for Ben. I really wanted to celebrate him. I had all these grand visions of having like all of his family and friends get together and having like this big blowout celebration. But I ended up just inviting some of his closest friends, which does look like a lot of people in this photo, but this was truly the closest that people were together the entire time. Otherwise, everybody was pretty distanced, and we were all outside in my parents' backyard. And it was just really nice to celebrate him in this way. And also at this time of year, in summer, things were not bad in our area at all. At that point, they had raised the number of people who could be outside at a gathering to like 500 or something like that. So we were definitely well within the limits of the guidelines. And everybody was healthy afterward, which thank God for. And yeah, it was just a really special day. And Ben continues to say how this was the best day of his entire year, and it was a surprise, and he was just so happy. So I have here us playing Can Jam, and then just a few other photos that I put on this. And then the journaling is in here as well. This is just documenting us going out the day after on the lake with a few of our friends. And then this day, I did a little watercolor of a crab because this was a crab fest. So we had a bunch of crabs and people were enjoying, but we had a lot of leftovers. So afterwards, Ben and I kept them, and we had a little mini crab fest in our living room. We were watching the show Community, and we had leftover corn and crabs and put down like newspaper everywhere to protect our table and our carpet. and just had a little living room feast, which was super fun. This next page documents a little wedding reception that was postponed to this date in September, and they actually ended up not having the actual wedding. They did that earlier and eloped, but then they still had a little mini reception that we were able to attend. So it was just really nice to get to dress up and go somewhere and see a few family members. This next page is just documenting us going out on the river and doing some evening catfishing, which was super fun. Obviously, this is not a catfish, but you know, it represents fishing. And so that was just a very simple page. And then this ribbon is really cool. It's actually an adhesive ribbon, so it comes with adhesive backing on it, which makes it really easy to stick on your page and use in your journaling. So definitely recommend that. This page is one that will likely be on my Patreon at some point. This is documenting what we call Apple Fest, where we have a friend who has an orchard and we go there every year to make fresh apple cider, and we weren't sure if it was going to happen this year, but since it's all outside and it was a beautiful day, we were still able to do it and make some delicious cider. And on this page I used a bunch of my fall printables from my October 2020 printable set. So this next page documents a really beautiful fall night where we had a little bonfire with just a few friends, and I loved the way that this photo turned out, so I made it nice and big and took up the whole page, and then just did a little collage over on this side. And I really liked using the washi tape when I do a double spread to connect the two pages and kind of show that they go together visually. And then I just have a few little printables, and this little sticker down here says bonfire. So I really love how simple and sweet this spread is. This is another 2-page spread that is probably one of my all-time favorites, documenting our little vacation with our family to the Outer Banks. I was looking forward to this so much all year just because of how crazy work has been, and we are so blessed to have an extended family member on my dad's side who own a house in the Outer Banks that we are allowed to stay in every year. So it was such a nice vacation because it was able to just be us with our family, and we did have one of my mom's friends and her son join us as well, and just a perfect little getaway. So this page is documenting just all of the things that we did to relax. I worked on a puzzle pretty much every single day. It's one of those puzzles that's like a mystery puzzle where you don't know what the image is going to be, so it makes it extra hard. And I did a painting for my craft room and just worked on that while I was there, and I did a lot of reading. I read the book Where the Crawdads Sing, which was super, super good. Highly recommend. And enjoyed good food with our family, and it was just such a nice time. So this is kind of the beginning of those entries, and then I did also document some of our days on the beach. So Ben rented a surfboard and did some surfing, which he really, really enjoyed. And then the glory of being in the Outer Banks is that you have the beach and the bay right there. So when he was done with surfing or surf fishing, we would go over to the bay and he would do some fishing there. And the bay was the perfect place to watch the sunset. And then this page documents fishing. So Ben kind of took my mom's friend's son under his wing and was helping him learn how to surf fish, and they caught all kinds of stuff, including a little bull shark here, which was crazy. All of them were put back, though we did keep a few fish that were in the legal limits to make dinner, and this was some of the best fish I ever had. And yeah, so there's been cooking it up today's catch, and definitely doesn't get much fresher than that. So that was really, really enjoyable, and I love having this page because I know these are some of Ben's favorite memories to look back on. This page documents another little bonfire, this time with Ben's parents and our niece. And again, she was telling us that s'more story, so I have some s'mores, and of course we were doing some stargazing. So really like this spread. I used some of my black Post-it notes to do all of these little outlines, and I just really thought it turned out nicely. And then this page over here documents my niece Haley's 6th birthday party, and luckily it was a very warm day in November, so we were able to have a little celebration with her outside. And I love this big 6 ephemera piece. This is like a little die cut that I got from my Tuesday morning haul, which is available on my Instagram as an IGTV video. But in that haul, I got these little number die cuts for like 50 cents. So I was super happy about that find, and I think it looks awesome on the page. These pages just document some November memories specifically related to church and decorating our church for Christmas and celebrating with one of our church family members who was just approved for foster care, and then enjoying, you know, like a good meal. So just some really sweet little spreads there. On this day, I went over to my parents and I baked cookies with my mom. So we baked all different varieties. So I did a little collage at the bottom here and then just used some little cookie stickers and a little best day sticker, and very, very simple page. And then this one is documenting the first big snow of the year, which was super fun because it happened right before Christmas. So we were able to enjoy the snow with all of the Christmas decorations and lights up. And I really love the way that this turned out with the different photos of the church with the tree in the background. And then these are little die cuts from a little die cut set I had that I put in here with the little picture frame that matches the Snow Much Fun. And then the We're a Perfect Pair that I put a little red ribbon around, which was a cute little touch. And then this spread documents Christmas Eve. I used some of the wrapping paper from our gifts. I saved it and held onto it to cut out these little trees to put in here. And then one of my favorite printable sets I've ever designed was the Silent Night theme. So that's what all of these little illustrations are from. They are from the Silent Night theme printable set on my Patreon page. And then I just have a few photos here of us playing this domino game. It's called Mexican Train Dominoes, and it's been a family favorite ever since going to the Outer Banks where we first learned how to play it. And so we played that with my parents on Christmas Eve. And then afterwards, we did get together with just a few friends to enjoy some beef Wellington that our one friends made, and played a game, and it was just nice to see them after we hadn't seen them in a very, very long time. And then on Christmas Day, we kept things very small and simple and just got together with my parents and Ben's parents. So we went to Ben's parents' house and just had a really sweet Christmas dinner. And on that day, Ben had written a short story for his mom, and he called it The Man and the Moon, and it was really beautifully written. I'm hoping that he will try to publish it somewhere. And he read it aloud to his mom and me, so that was just super, super special. And we watched A Christmas Carol to end the night, which is a little tradition for us. And there are some printables on here as well from that Silent Night theme. So I just really love the way that this turned out. We had a really wonderful Christmas, and I did write I'm dreaming of a white Christmas here because we did get some snow flurries on Christmas Day, which was really exciting. And then, friends, we have New Year's Eve. We were invited to a larger New Year's Eve party, but we didn't think that that was the right thing to do this year, so we just decided instead to invite our two good friends in our little pod, Nat and Jen, that I've mentioned before, over. So they came over and I made a ton of little appetizers for only 4 of us. So I thought we were going to have a lot of leftovers, but we actually did a pretty good job eating most of the food I had prepared. And yeah, we just had a little New Year's Eve in, which was really nice. And I used my old 2020 printable and my new 2021 printable from Patreon to do this little detail at the bottom that says goodbye 2020, hello 2021. And so that is the end of the year, but I did also then create a 2020 Remember When page where I kind of just documented the highlights in terms of the big things happening beyond my specific life, things like the election, things like everything happening around the pandemic and just keywords, and some of like the major shows that were really popular like Tiger King and The Queen's Gambit. So I just thought that was a fun page to wrap up the year. And then if you've been following along with me, you might be aware that I had been also documenting monthly highlights in my hobonichi. And rather than keep it in my hobonichi, which I don't see myself really revisiting very often and pulling off the shelf, I decided to actually cut the pages of the monthly highlights out of my hobonichi, which I know for some of you will be like a great sin to have torn apart my hobonichi, but I decided to cut these out because I wanted them in here with the rest of my memory keeping pages. So I had been doing these throughout the year, doing monthly highlights, and then I would pick out a few that were the biggest highlights to then document, which is what you see on these pages. But there are things mentioned in these monthly highlights that did not make it into these daily pages. So I'll just give you a quick little flip through of what those look like. I do have a few videos creating these pages here on my channel and on my Patreon, so I definitely recommend checking those out if you want to learn more about this. But this is a great way to document your year. If creating even highlight daily pages like this feels like too much, just taking a moment at the end of every month to reflect on that month and jot down a few things and use a few stickers to represent special moments from that month is a really fun way to still get your memories recorded from that time. So here we have January, where again I talk about the beautiful snow. I talk about watching the movie 1917, which was our favorite from this year, and that is not mentioned in the rest of my journaling, so I'm glad that that is included here, as well as going to see Little Women. And then Ben and Nat did a little weekend getaway at a cabin, so that is recorded here as well, and didn't make it into the rest of my journaling. So here again are just all the highlights. Then of course we get into March, and that's when everything went crazy, and where we have the Galapagos trip documented as well. And then we have April, which is very focused on quarantine and slowing down and staying home. And then we get into May and June, which starts to involve getting out and about in the world and just mostly going on hikes and things like that. And then we have July with some fun summer activities, as well as August. So these are just really fun, super busy pages that just give you a little snapshot of what each month was like at a glance. And yeah, they're just are really happy pages and fun to reflect on. And again, it's not full-on journaling. This is just jotting down keywords or little illustrations to bring you back to specific moments and memories. So that is how I end this page. It just says, it's been a hard year, but God is faithful. And so we can see, even though it's been a hard year, we still have all of these happy little memories to reflect on. And then to end my 2020 journal, friends, I just put down this "Courage is Grace Under Pressure" sticker, which is a quote by Ernest Hemingway. And how true is that sentiment, especially for this year. And then just did a really simple strip of washi tape and used my number stencil and a glitter pen to write out 2020. And I just did a little reflection on the year and how if this year has taught me anything, it's that I can only control so much. And that even when the world's troubles are pressing in and feel suffocating, my courage will be found in His grace. And even through the difficult days, there is faith, there is hope, and there is love. For these things are abiding.
All right, fam, so that is a wrap on 2020. Those are the highlights from my year and all of the memories and moments that I chose to document from this past year. I really hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, please be sure to give it a big thumbs up. It really does help my channel and let YouTube know that you enjoyed it and maybe others would enjoy getting to see my journal as well and join this amazing community. If you haven't already joined our community, make sure you do so by hitting that subscribe button and turn on your notification bells, because as I said, we are going to be continuing our journaling journey together in 2021. There's going to be a lot more content coming your way and you're not going to want to miss it. So make sure that you have the notifications on so you know exactly when all of those videos come out. And if you want to support everything I do here even more and get exclusive content like some of the printables you saw in my spreads and even more journaling videos, there are quite a few journal with me's from my 2020 journal that are only going to be found on Patreon, then make sure you check out patreon.com/abidingkelseylee to support me and get access to that exclusive content. I really, really appreciate it, and I'm so grateful to all of my patrons. So that is everything for this video, fam, but I am really believing that God has big and wonderful plans for this community as we move into 2021, and I hope that you will be along for the ride. So until next time, fam, keep exploring your abiding creativity and document a life abiding in faith, hope, and love.